Last summer, I shared this shorts video of constructing a cake for my mom for her retirement dinner. I talked about the fillings and I asked if this was the best cake I had ever made. To say the least, it took off. It has over 2 million views and a ton of creative and hilarious comments on that video of people really wanting this cake. So here's how we make the viral yummy cake. Hi there, foodie friends. My name is Carly and welcome back to my channel, Adventures in Yum. For the cake layers, we're making lemon cake that has a perfect pop of lemon flavor. We start by sifting 2 cups or 280 grams of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt into a medium-sized mixing bowl. We give that a quick whisk to combine and then set it aside for now. Next to a large mixing bowl, we're adding 1.5 cups or 300 grams of granulated sugar and 2 tablespoons of lemon zest. We're then using a clean hand to mix and rub the zest into the sugar. This will help release the oils in the zest and give our cake an even better lemon flavor. We then add 2 teaspoons of lemon extract or emulsion, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 3 large room temperature eggs. We mix that together until it's well combined and lighter in color, about 3 to 5 minutes. Then we add 1 cup or about 208 grams of mayonnaise and mix that until well combined, about 1 to 2 minutes. Finally, we're adding 1/3 of our flour mixture and 1/3 of our 1 cup or about 260 milliliters of water. We then mix that until it's just combined and then repeat the process 2 more times. Once it's ready, we evenly divide the batter between 3 8-inch cake pans. I recommend using a food scale for more accuracy, and don't forget to grease those pans. We then bake them for about 25 minutes or so, or until a cake tester comes out clean. While I did make the cake last year using 4 6-inch cake layers, I figured that a shorter and wider cake would be easier to recreate at home. Usually after chilling the cake layers in the fridge, we would level the tops, but these actually baked up pretty flat, so we're skipping that step this time. We make sure that these stay fully covered and chilled until we're ready to stack the cake. Next, I made a double batch of vanilla cheesecake in a sheet pan for another project that you'll see soon, and had extra, so after cutting circles for that cake project, I decided to add the scraps to a mixing bowl, mix them up, and added them to a piping bag to fill this cake. When I made this cake last summer, I cut circles of cheesecake, so you can use either method to fill this cake. Make sure to check the video description for the vanilla cheesecake recipe video. Now we're making our strawberry compote. I used a slightly adapted version of Broke Bank Vegan's recipe and made a large batch. So to a saucepan, I added 3/4 cup or about 150 grams of granulated sugar and 6 tablespoons or about 48 grams of cornstarch to a saucepan and gave that a quick stir. Then I added about 3 to 4 tablespoons of lemon juice and whisked the mixture together, and finally added 3 pounds or about 1.36 kilograms of quartered strawberries. We then mixed that and put it over medium heat on the stove. After stirring frequently while the strawberries cook down and the mixture thickens over about 15 or 20 minutes, we remove it from the stove. But before I was fully done cooking the strawberry compote, I decided that I didn't want the strawberries to be as large as they were, so I used a potato masher to break the strawberries into smaller pieces, making sure not to mash it too much because we still want some chunks of strawberries and not just puree. We then put this in a heat-safe container that is airtight, let it cool for about 15 to 20 minutes, and finally chill it in the fridge. Something that's different for this cake when compared to last summer's cake is that I also decided to whip up a quick graham cracker crust mixture and bake it on a sheet pan to make it into sort of a crumble. It's just a quick combination of 2 cups or about 240 grams of graham cracker crumbs, half a cup or 100 grams of granulated sugar, 1 stick or half a cup or 110 grams of melted unsalted butter, and an optional little pinch of salt. I actually made 1.5 batches here that was way more than needed, but was used for some other treats as well. After baking it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or about 177 degrees Celsius for about 8 to 10 minutes, I moved the crumbs around and then baked it for another 5 minutes or so and let it completely cool. Finally, before we assemble the cake, we need some buttercream. So I decided to try something a little bit different from last year and made some stiff cream cheese frosting. But this was a disastrous mistake, as you'll see shortly. When trying to assemble this cake, I started with some buttercream on a cake board because it acts as a glue to keep the cake from sliding around. I then added a layer of cake, added a very thin layer of cream cheese frosting, and on top of that put some graham cracker crust crumble, piped a layer of cheesecake and smoothed it out with an offset spatula, then attempted to create a border out of cheesecake, piped and smoothed some cream cheese frosting on the outside of that, added strawberry compote, and then repeated the process. As you can see, the cake looks like it's melting and just falling apart on the inside. Not even adding dowels helped keep this cake from imploding. I leave this in here for you to see that not everything goes right, and this was one of those weeks where things just didn't want to work out. Even if you have a lot of experience and have constructed many cakes before, or whatever it may be, you can still make mistakes like I did here. As long as you learn along the way, that's a positive. I learned that I had too much faith in my baked cheesecake to have some semblance of structure, and that the moisture from the strawberry compote softened the cream cheese frosting, so now I know I should always use my Old Faithful buttercream Swiss meringue. I'll link my Swiss meringue buttercream video in the description, so make sure to check it out because that is my favorite buttercream to work with when decorating cakes and cupcakes. After carefully deconstructing the cake, I was able to salvage the cake layers, make new cheesecake, and luckily had extra strawberry compote and graham cracker crust crumble. Now we can correctly assemble this cake. We start with some buttercream on the cake board, followed by a layer of cake, and then adding a very thin layer of Swiss meringue buttercream, some graham cracker crust crumble, a thick piped and smoothed perimeter of buttercream. Unfortunately, my camera stopped recording for the first layer for some reason, but you'll see how to do it again shortly. Then we pipe a layer of cheesecake and smooth it out with an offset spatula, followed by a layer of strawberry compote. We then repeat the same pattern until we get to our final cake layer, where I like to flip the top cake layer to give it a nice flat top. While you could add dowels or straws to this cake, with the proper buttercream, it was quite stable and did not need the supports in this cake. If you make the taller version like I did last summer, you would definitely need to add supports. Now that the cake is fully stacked, we crumb coat the cake using a very thin layer of buttercream. We don't need much buttercream now because this layer is to lock in any crumbs so that there won't be any cake crumbs showing in the final layer of buttercream. Once that's done, pop it in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes or in the freezer for about 15 to 20 minutes or until the buttercream is nice and solid. Before we finish this yummy cake, if you're enjoying this video, then please make sure to hit that like button, click subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified about my latest video. While last year I was practicing my first attempt at a full-size tie-dye cake design, to decorate our cake this time, we're making a pink and purple ombre cake. I highly recommend using a hand blender when mixing your gel colors into your buttercream to get lovely and very vivid colors. Once we've made our purple, pink, and a mixture between the two, we're adding each color to a separate piping bag. We then pipe dark purple on the bottom third of the cake, the light purple on the middle third of the cake, and the pink on the top third of the cake. For the very top of the cake, we could just do pink, but I decided to try a reverse ombre of our colors, starting with pink on the outside, then light purple, and finally dark purple in the center. To blend the colors, we use a palette knife and swipe it diagonally between two of the colors in one direction and then go over that by swiping in the opposite direction. We then use an offset spatula to smooth it out a little bit, and because it wasn't blended as much as I wanted, I repeated this process. Then we do the exact same with our next color combination and finally repeat this with the top of the cake as well. We then use a cake scraper to smooth the buttercream. If there are some noticeable gaps or holes, we can fill those in with some of our excess buttercream and then use an offset spatula to work the buttercream into those spots. I decided to pop the cake in the fridge to chill the buttercream for about 15 to 20 minutes. Then using a kitchen torch to warm our cake scraper, we continue to smooth and scrape the buttercream off of the cake, as well as using a paring knife to cut excess buttercream off the top and even help smooth out the buttercream a little bit there as well. Once we're as happy as we can be with our smooth buttercream, we're using a piping bag fitted with a Wilton 6B piping tip and filled with the pink, light purple, and dark purple buttercreams. Holding the bag perpendicular to the top of the cake, we then pipe a border of buttercream dollops. Next, we're adding a cute purple sprinkle mix to the bottom of the cake, basically on top of the dark purple buttercream part. With our clean fingers, of course, we're adding the sprinkles. It actually makes it easier to add the sprinkles this way if you have the tiniest bit of buttercream residue on your finger. It's more like a film over your finger and it helps the sprinkles to stick while transferring them to the side of the cake, but it's not enough to see any buttercream or any colors on the sprinkles. Once we're done with the bottom, we're sprinkling a fun pink sprinkle mix over the buttercream dollops and covering the top of the cake on the inside of the border as well. We could stop there, but I decided to also add this really pretty love cake topper to the top center of the cake. And here's the completed cake. I've only done a few ombre cakes, but this one is definitely my favorite so far. I do have some more practice to do with this technique, but for a creator who makes some really gorgeous ombre designs and definitely influenced the technique that I used for my ombre cake today, make sure to check out Sweet Josie Bakes. And of course, we also want to see that lovely cross section. The light lemony cake layers combined with the creamy vanilla cheesecake, fresh pop of strawberry compote, a little texture and graham cracker flavor from the crumble, and creamy buttercream is such a perfect flavor and textural combination. Let me know in the comments, would you give this cake a try? If you're interested in checking out some of the products I used in this video, then please make sure to check out that video description below for some of their Amazon links. Thank you so much for joining me today, foodie friends. I'll see you next time for another yummy adventure.